You think you know what happened between Jasmine and Gino. You think you saw a relationship crumble under the weight of insecurity and cultural differences. Because that is exactly what the network wanted you to see. But we have obtained information, insider whispers, and timeline discrepancies that suggest the narrative you were fed was carefully constructed to hide a much darker, much more calculated reality. What if I told you that the breakdown at the tell-all wasn't about love or cheating, but about a contract negotiation gone wrong? What if the person pulling the strings wasn't Jasmine and it wasn't Gino, but a third party that was never shown on camera? Today, we are not just recapping the drama. We are tearing down the fourth wall to expose the psychological warfare that took place behind the scenes. We are connecting the dots between the leaked emails, the mystery phone numbers, and the sudden suspicious delays in the immigration process that seem too convenient to be accidental. You are about to step into the real story, the one that didn't make the final edit. Before we descend into this rabbit hole, I need you to stop what you are doing right now. If you want the truth that the network tries to scrub from the internet, you need to hit that like button and subscribe to the tell-all tapes. We are the only channel digging this deep, and by subscribing, you are joining the investigation. Do it now. Because this video might not stay up forever once the powers that be see how close we are getting to the truth. Let's begin the autopsy of this disaster. 2. Understand why the finale exploded the way it did, we have to go back to the very beginning, to a detail that almost everyone missed. We need to talk about the timeline gap. According to our analysis of the filming schedule versus the airing schedule, there is a blackout period of roughly weeks that is completely unaccounted for in the show's narrative. The show presents the timeline as linear fight, makeup, fight, breakup, but insider theories suggest that during this week blackout, something massive happened regarding Gino's finances that changed the entire dynamic of the relationship. We keep hearing about the prenup, right? That was the storyline they hammered into our heads. But sources suggest the prenup was a decoy. The real issue wasn't about protecting assets Gino already had. It was about protecting assets he was moving. Look at his behavior. Gino operates with the paranoia of a man who is hiding something. But it's not infidelity. It's money. When Jasmine asks for the paint color changes or the decorations, watch his eyes. He doesn't look annoyed. He looks terrified. Why? Because every transaction leaves a paper trail. Our theory is that Gino was under immense pressure, not just from his family, but from external financial factors that the show legally couldn't discuss. This transforms Jasmine's role completely. She wasn't just a demanding fiancé. She was potentially being used as a cover. If everyone is focused on her screaming about lip gloss, nobody is looking at the bank transfers. This is classic misdirection. Now, let's layer in the pregnancy scare. On the surface, this looked like a biological accident that heightened the emotional stakes. But let's look closer at the timing. The pregnancy conversation happened exactly when the K visa paperwork hit a Mysterious snag. Coincidence? In the world of reality TV production, there are no coincidences. Insider reports have long speculated that production companies often encourage couples to discuss pregnancy scares during contract renewal periods, because it guarantees a storyline for the next season. But here's the twist. Jasmine is smart. We believe she realized that a pregnancy would lock her into a narrative she couldn't control. The panic you saw in her eyes wasn't just about raising a child. It was the realization that she was becoming a pawn in a much larger game of chess between Gino and the production team. She mentioned feeling isolated, right? That isolation was manufactured. We have looked at the location of their housing. It wasn't just suburban, it was strategic. They were placed in a location that made Jasmine physically dependent on Gino for transportation, food, and social interaction. This is a technique known as siloing. By removing a cast member's autonomy, you increase their emotional volatility. Every time Jasmine screamed, she was reacting to a cage that was invisible to the audience but very real to her. Then we have the D&E situation, the ex-boyfriend, the villain. But was he? Or was D&E a production plant introduced to force Gino's hand? Think about it. D&E appears exactly when the storyline lulls. He offers exactly what Gino refuses to give: attention and validation. It's almost too perfect. There is a theory circulating in the deep forums that D&E's appearance was contractually obligated, that Jasmine didn't reach out to him out of loneliness, but because she was nudged by producers who said, if you want to secure your spot on the spin-off, we need a love triangle. This reframes Gino's reaction. He wasn't just jealous. He was furious because he knew the game was being rigged against him, but he couldn't break the fourth wall to say it. He had to play the role of the jealous fiancé, knowing full well that D&E was just a plot device. This explains the tight jaw and the shutting down. He was trying to navigate a minefield where his partner was being incentivized to betray him for ratings. And this brings us to the most controversial element of the season, the open marriage proposal and the introduction of Matt. This is where the story shifts from a relationship drama to a psychological thriller. The mainstream narrative is that Jasmine wanted to hurt Gino, so she brought up Matt. But let's look at the insider report regarding the gym. We have received tips that the gym filming locations were scouted months in advance. Matt didn't just stumble into the frame. The environment was controlled. The conversations were likely prompted. When Jasmine asked Gino if he would be okay with her being with another man, she wasn't asking for permission. She was testing his desperation. And Gino failed the test. By agreeing or even entertaining the idea, Gino revealed that his desire to stay on the show and perhaps the financial incentives attached to it outweighed his dignity. This is the sunk cost fallacy in real time. But here is the exclusive theory that changes everything. What if the open marriage plot was Gino's idea first? There are whispers that off-camera Gino suggested loosening their boundaries to take the pressure off himself because he couldn't meet her emotional demands. If this is true, then Jasmine bringing up Matt Wasn't a betrayal. It was malicious. Compliance. She was giving him exactly what he asked for, but in the most public, humiliating way possible. That is why she looked so shocked when he didn't fight for her. She was waiting for him to snap out of the reality TV trance and be a real partner, but he was too deep in the game. We also need to talk about the silence. The transcripts of their unedited footage allegedly contain long, uncomfortable silences that were cut for time. But in those silences, you see the truth. There is a moment right before the tell-all where they are sitting in the green room. No talking, no fighting. Just staring at their phones. This isn't the behavior of a couple in crisis. It is the behavior of coworkers who hate their job. This lends credibility to the business arrangement theory. This theory posits that by the time the tell-all filmed, the relationship was already effectively over and they were legally bound to perform the breakup on stage to fulfill their contract obligations. This explains why Jasmine's emotions seemed so heightened. She wasn't acting. She was hysterical because she was trapped in a performance of her own trauma. She had to relive the death of her relationship for an audience, knowing that her immigration status was hanging by a thread. Let's pivot to the immigration lawyer. The scenes with the lawyer were some of the most tense in the series, but we need to question the timing of that bad news. The delay in the paperwork came right before the most crucial filming block. Is it possible that the network has contacts within the immigration system? No, that's too far. But is it possible that the production team withheld the news until the cameras were rolling to capture the raw reaction? Absolutely. This is a common industry tactic. When Jasmine received that news, she wasn't just hearing that her visa was delayed. She was realizing that her life was being managed by people who viewed her pain as contempt. This is the cruelty of the machine. Gino's reaction to the lawyer was telling. He wasn't surprised. Why did he already know? Did he sabotage the paperwork? One prevailing theory is that Gino intentionally filed the wrong forms to keep Jasmine in a state of dependency. By keeping her status in limbo, he kept the power. If she gets the green card, she can leave. She stays on the visa. She needs him. This would explain his obsession with the process and his refusal to hire a high-end attorney despite having the money. It wasn't cheapness, it was control. He was weaponizing the bureaucracy against her. And now the mystery phone number. The show brushed this off as a loose end, a random wrong number. Do not believe that for a second. In the digital age, with the level of scrutiny these people are under, random calls don't just happen during pivotal arguments. Our investigation suggests three possibilities. 1. It was a producer calling from a burner phone to trigger Gino's paranoia at a critical moment. 2. It was a contact from Gino's past that he was desperately trying to keep secret, perhaps related to the hidden financial assets we discussed earlier. Or 3, and this is the darkest theory, it was Jasmine calling herself from a second phone to manufacture a jealousy storyline because she felt Gino was checking out. Whichever it is, the phone number is the smoking gun. It represents the intrusion of the outside world into their hermetically sealed bubble. Gino's fixation on it wasn't madness. It was the reaction of a man who realized the walls were closing in. He knew that number meant something, and the fact that production refused to clarify it suggests they knew too. We have to address the physical toll. Look at the footage from the beginning of the season versus the end. Jasmine lost weight. Her skin broke out. She was losing hair. These are physical manifestations of high cortisol levels over a sustained period. She was living in a fight or flight state for months. Meanwhile, Gino gained weight. He became lethargic. This is the physical manifestation of depressive avoidance. They were literally making each other sick. And yet, the machine kept rolling. The cameras kept zooming in. We have to ask ourselves, at what point does documentation become exploitation? The insider perspective here is that the on-set medics were allegedly called multiple times for Jasmine's panic attacks, but those visits were never aired. Why? Because it breaks the immersion. If you see the medicine, you remember it's a TV show. If you just see her crying, it's a drama. They needed her to look unstable, not unwell. There is a massive difference, and the edit deliberately blurred that line to paint her as the crazy Latina trope, stripping away the context of her medical distress. Now, let's go deeper into the Matt variable. The man from the gym. The audience turned on him, then liked him, then forgot him. But Matt is the key to understanding Gino's psyche. Matt represents the physical opposite of Gino. Young, fit, simple. Gino didn't hate Matt. He wanted to be Matt. He projected all his insecurities onto this gym bro. When Jasmine claimed she had an obsession with Gino, she was trying to rewrite history. She was trying to convince herself that the toxicity was passion. But watch Matt's face during the tell all. That wasn't the face of a lover. That was the face of a man who realized he had walked onto a movie set without a script. He was a civilian casualty. The rumor is that Matt was actually recruited by a talent scout who hangs out at that specific gym looking for conflicts to inject into the show. If true, it means Jasmine didn't find Matt. The show found Matt and placed him in Jasmine's orbit. This would explain why the interactions felt so stilted and why the affair never really got physical. It was a simulation of an affair designed to test the limits of the K-visa contract regarding moral turpitude. We are approaching the midpoint of our investigation, and we haven't even touched on the biggest cover-up of the season, the phantom email that supposedly exposed Gino's communication with his exes. The show glossed over the contents of those emails, focusing instead on Jasmine's reaction, but what was in them. We have theoretical reconstructions based on forum leaks that suggest Gino wasn't just talking to exes. He was comparing Jasmine to them. He was crowdsourcing opinions on his relationship from women he used to sleep with. That is a level of betrayal that goes beyond cheating. It is a systematic dismantling of his partner's privacy. And yet Gino played the victim. He acted Like his privacy was invaded because she read them. This is the ultimate gaslight. The insider take is that Gino deliberately left those emails open. He wanted her to find them. He wanted to sabotage the relationship so she would break up with him, allowing him to exit the contract without being the bad guy who abandoned a pregnant woman in a foreign country. It was a cowardly, brilliant exit strategy that backfired. Because Jasmine refused to leave, she doubled down. She fought harder, and that is what broke him. He couldn't understand why she wouldn't just let go. As we prepare to move into the second half of this expose, you need to understand that everything we have discussed so far is just the surface layer. The financial hiding, the producer manipulation, the immigration sabotage are just the symptoms. The disease at the heart of this relationship is something much more profound and disturbing. In part 2, we are going to dissect the raw footage from the tell-all that never made it to air. We are going to explore the silent treatment protocol that Gino used to punish Jasmine for weeks at a time. And we are going to reveal the final devastating secret that Jasmine has been hinting at on social media, but is legally barred from saying outright. This secret involves the real reason her children haven't been brought over yet. And it has nothing to do with paperwork. It has to do with a background check that flagged something in Gino's past that the show is desperate to bury. You are not going to believe what we have found. Keep listening, because the rabbit hole gets deeper and the darkness distraction from the fact that he was emotionally bankrupting her. He needed her to spend that money so he could maintain the moral high ground. It was a symbiotic toxicity. He bought the complaints. She bought the gloss. We must also address the Truman Show aspect of their housing. We mentioned the siloing earlier, but it goes deeper. We believe the house they rented was bugged, not by the government, but by production. Fixed-rig cameras are common, but insider reports suggest there were audio surveillance devices in rooms that were supposedly off-limits, like the bathroom and the closet. This explains why some of the voiceovers sound so intimate and echoed. They were pulled from surveillance audio, not interview sessions. Jasmine and Gino were living in a panopticon. They knew they were being watched. This creates a phenomenon called performative existence. They stopped being human beings and started being characters in their own lives. They couldn't have a genuine moment because they were always subconsciously performing for the invisible audience. The paranoia this induces is enough to break the strongest mind. Jasmine's crazy outbursts were likely panic attacks induced by the realization that she had zero privacy. She was a rat in a and Gino was the one holding the cheese. Now, let's go back to the tell-all. Specifically the backstage footage that was scrubbed from the main broadcast. We have reconstructed the events based on audience leaks and social media slip-ups from the cast. During the break, after the mat segment, Jasmine allegedly collapsed, not for attention, but from hyperventilation. What was Gino doing? According to witnesses, he was eating a sandwich. He was checking his fantasy football score. This level of detachment is pathological, but here is the Exclusive theory that explains it. Gino had already checked out of the relationship months prior. He was just waiting for the contract to expire. He viewed the tell-all not as a chance to fix things, but as his exit interview. He was clocking out. The sandwich incident proves that to him. Jasmine was no longer fiancé. She was a disgruntled employee he was about to fire. The coldness is the point. It wasn't that he didn't care. It was that he had reassigned her in his brain from partner to liability. We also need to talk about the prenup death clause. Standard prenups cover divorce, but rumors of the Gino draft suggest clauses that were draconian. Allegedly, there were stipulations about weight gain, social media usage, and even how often she could visit Panama. This wasn't a prenup. It was a conduct code. It was an ownership document. By refusing to sign it initially, Jasmine wasn't being difficult. She was fighting for her human rights. The show framed it as her wanting his money. But the insider perspective is that she was terrified of the clauses that would leave her destitute and deported if she broke a minor rule, like posting the wrong photo on Instagram. Gino was trying to legislate her behavior through contract law. He wanted a wife he could sue. And what about the reset button? Despite all this, the abuse, the manipulation, the lies, they stayed together. Why? The easy answer is love. The cynical answer is fame. But the deep dive answer is trauma bonding. They are addicted to the cortisol spike. The cycle of fight releases dopamine and adrenaline that a normal, healthy relationship cannot provide. They are junkies for their own dysfunction. But there is also the sunk cost of the visa. If they break up, Gino loses the thousands he invested and Jasmine loses the American dream. They are hostages to the bureaucracy. The system is designed to keep them together until the green card arrives. They are physically in the U.S., but emotionally they are in a prison cell built by the USCIS and TLC. They cannot afford to break up. The cost of separation is higher than the cost of misery. Finally, we have to look at you, the audience. We are the final piece of this conspiracy. The feedback loop theory suggests that Jasmine and Gino read the comments. They watched the reaction videos. They tailor their fights to what trends on Twitter. When we called Jasmine crazy, she leaned into it. When we called Gino AS, he became more stubborn. We are directing the show with our clicks. We are the monsters under the bed. The production team knows this. They use sentiment analysis algorithms to decide which fights to air and which to cut. We are not just watching a tragedy. We are writing it. The truth about Jasmine and Gino is that there is no truth. There is only the edit. There is only the narrative, constructed to keep you watching through the commercial break. But the scars on Jasmine's psyche and the hollowness in Gino's eyes are real. They sold their souls for a season renewal, and we are the ones devouring the receipt. This investigation is far from over. We are currently scrubbing the metadata of the leaked photos from the reunion party. And what we are finding connects this couple to a scandal that involves two other cast members from a previous season. The web is bigger than we thought. If you want to be there when we drop the network connection expose, you need to subscribe right now. Do not let the algorithm hide this from you. Hit the notification bell. Share this video to break the shadow ban. We are the tell all tapes and we are watching the watchers. Until next time, question everything.